Do fitness industry surveys actually tell us what members want? Let's get into this. This is non-filtered. I got a big cup because I got a lot to say on this. If I put a microphone in front of 100 fitness operators right now and ask them, simple question, do you actually know what your members want? Almost all of them would say yes. But if I followed up with, and what data gave you that answer? Most of them would start referencing the same handful of surveys published every year by the same organizations. Surveys that are treated like gospel. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Those surveys, do they actually tell you what your members want, or don't they? Here's what I see. They tell you what you think your members want. Worse, they may tell you what someone wants you to believe that your members want. And today on Non-Filtered, I'm going to walk you through why. Once again, welcome back to Non-Filtered, the place where we strip away the corporate spin, the industry delusions, and the comforting narratives we all cling to, so we can actually see reality for what it is. I'm Adam Howland, and today I'm getting into something the industry rarely questions: member surveys. The last few years, 24 and 25 in particular, look at member preference report or annual state of the industry surveys or brand sponsored research, boutique member polls, even digital fitness experience studies, all of it. The big question: were these surveys designed to reveal truth or to reinforce a narrative? I think this episode may shed some light to a lot of you who look at these surveys as gospel or biblical truth. Here's the truth, because the way a survey is designed says more than the results it gives you. I'm going to talk psychology. I'm going to talk behavioral economics. I'm going to talk generational bias. And together, we're going to talk about how good research can still produce bad conclusions simply because the instrument was built on false assumptions. This episode might piss some people off, but guess what? That's why a lot of you are here, so let's get into it. Surveys often get treated like they're factual, objective, neutral. But anyone who's ever studied behavioral science knows this. There's no such thing as a neutral question. There's no such thing as a neutral answer. And there's no such thing as a neutral interpretation. Every single question carries framing. Every answer carries a bias, and every interpretation carries a narrative. A simple question, like how important are amenities to you, means something completely different to a 65-year-old boomer in an HVLP club than it does to a 27-year-old former college athlete at an upscale boutique. We pretend in the industry that this average member, this avatar that we place and put in place of an average member exists. It doesn't. These surveys, all of them, blend wildly different populations together and tell you, hey, this is what the members want. But what they're actually saying is, this is how the people we happen to poll interpreted these questions through their own lens and at this exact moment in time. Is that truth? I don't think that's truth. That's an illusion of truth. Sure, it's data and we can use it to make better decisions, but are we? There's a sampling problem. And I don't see anybody talking about it. And here's the part that I never hear anybody in the industry admit to. Almost all surveys, especially in the last few years, oversample HVLP populations. Why? Because they're the easiest, the cheapest, the fastest way to pull together a bunch of data and say we did this extensive poll. Now, you may be thinking, because maybe you're sitting inside of an HVLP, what difference does it make? Here's what it means. It means that the sample is dominated by price-sensitive members, lower engagement users, people who joined for a low cost and convenience, people who do not represent med-tier or premium buyer psychology. And if you're inside one of these HVLPs, and maybe you're a personal training director and you're trying to figure out how to have a better penetration rate into your population, and you're banging your head against the wall because these surveys all say one thing when the data in front of you is saying something completely different. When you look at this report and it tells you most members prefer a lower price point. Of course they do. The sample is 70% or greater of the people who join these clubs because of price. When these reports say most members do not want high touch service, right, because HVLP members aren't paying for it, and most of them haven't experienced it. When the survey claims technology is becoming less important to older members, that's a palm to forehead moment, because boomers, as we know, aren't early adopters. And the question didn't differentiate between I don't need tech and, well, I don't know what's possible, so I can't desire it. If your sample is biased, then your conclusions are biased. And almost nobody is adjusting for that. If you studied Kahneman or Thaler or Ehrlich, behavioral economics, you know the pattern. Humans, this is all of us, are terrible at predicting our own preferences. Ask someone, do you want more personalized coaching? And they answer based on what they think personalization means, what they've experienced in the past, what their emotional state that day is, even their mental model they built from decades of conditioning, even the fear of committing to something in these surveys that, oh my God, I don't want to answer that because they might up the cost and it will cost me more. People do not answer surveys based on their actual behavior. They don't. They answer based on their perceived identity. One way to think about it, so I was listening to another podcaster and they had a guest on, I cannot recall the name. It made sense. There's a different identity of you away from work and of you at work. You will provide different answers to a survey. There's tons of papers published on this. People will answer surveys differently at work, punched in on the clock, than they will at home. The same questions when they're punched off the clock. So they answer based on their perceived identity. A boomer doesn't say, I want connected equipment with adaptive AI coaching, because they don't know it exists. Gen Z members, they don't say, I want a member-driven experiential environment like Crunch used to build in the early 2000s, because they weren't alive when Crunch was pioneering that. And a price-sensitive HVLP member isn't going to say, hey, I want a premium tier service with live coaching, because they define themselves as someone who buys low-cost fitness. So surveys do not capture truth. They capture perception. But perception is not intention. And perception is not behavior. There's a framing problem. Okay. And here's the one thing that nobody wants to talk about. You can manipulate survey results just by how you frame the options. Let me give you an example. This is widely studied every 4 years in political surveys, but in the fitness industry and other industries, not so much. But here's an example. You get a survey that says, which of these improvements would most increase your likelihood of visiting the club more often? And let's say your options are more classes, cleaner locker rooms, lower price, more equipment, longer hours. Then you have already, in how you design this survey, frame the conversation around operational features, not emotional experience. Where is options like feeling connected to the community or being coached toward my goals? Or, oh, this is the trigger one, feeling seen, known, and supported, being part of something meaningful, gamified motivational loops, technology augmented engagement. I mean, the list can go on and on. If you don't offer those options, the survey can't reveal the truth. And you, therefore, cannot truly know what members want if you didn't give them a chance to articulate it. Surveys, especially the ones right now, are not designed around this. They're designed around what the industry believes the industry is, not what the members' deeper psychological drivers actually are. So let's just say it plainly in a non-filtered way. Some surveys exist to reinforce the business model of the organizations that publish them. I think I'm going to repeat that because it's important. Some surveys, and I would say most today, exist to reinforce the business model of the organization that's publishing them. If a company makes equipment, their research report will magically conclude, I guarantee you, that the equipment variety is a top driver of member satisfaction. Seth, I can't even talk today. Getting excited for Thanksgiving. Or if a digital platform publishes a study, it tends to conclude that the digital is the key driver of engagement. No kidding. Or let's say if a certification company publishes a survey, I guarantee that data frequently elevates coaching, training, and education to the top. Or if a franchise publishes internal research, the ones I've seen, it usually aligns with the brand's existing philosophy. And in the worst cases, the worst. Now you're going to start to look at these surveys a little bit differently. The report is written before the data is even gathered. The survey then becomes this fishing expedition to generate just enough numbers to justify the predetermined conclusion. That isn't research. It's marketing with section headers. That is what you find in most polls and surveys every 4 years. It's terrible. So, and here's the deeper question. Do these surveys reveal any truth? Let me answer this directly. No. No. They reveal truth and interpretation, but not truth. They reveal narrative, but not intention. They reveal conditioning, but not desire. You know what reveals truth? Here's the hard facts. Truth is revealed with behavioral data, emotional data, retention data, social data, psychographic segmentation, experience data, even longitudinal behavior patterns. You don't learn what members want by asking them. You learn what they want by watching what they do when nobody is asking them. You learn through session frequency, abandonment points, engagement peaks, drop-off timing, referral behavior, content consumption, time of visit, equipment preference, social influence loops. Oh, and the emotional signals embedded in their behavior. That's what you watch. That's what you monitor. That's what you figure out how to measure. Surveys tell you what someone believes they believe. Behavior of those individuals tells you the truth. Well, all right. Some of you, I can already feel it. Adam, what are we doing? What should we do? We're operators. Now you're saying just throw all the surveys in the trash? No. If you're listening and you're in this industry, here's the non-filtered advice. Stop treating member surveys like gospel. They are one signal, one data set, and often the weakest ones. If you're a veteran to this industry and you have stood in front of other humans and worked inside these clubs and observed these behaviors for a significant period of time, you can kind of read between the lines in some of these surveys. Use these surveys as reflection, not as revelation. They tell you what the member is aware of, but not what they necessarily need. Important point. Study behaviors. Take the data from the survey and use it on the front lines and start to study behaviors, not opinions. Opinions are stories. Behaviors are truth. And please break your population into segments. An HVLP is not the same as a mid-tier. And a mid-tier isn't the same as a high tier. And a high tier isn't the same as a boutique. And Gen Z is not the same as a millennial. Boomers aren't the same as Gen X. Stop lumping this all together and treating it like it's the same. And finally, stop asking the members in these surveys what they want. Start designing and building these for what they will respond to. I mean, did Apple ever send a survey asking people if they wanted an iPhone? They wouldn't even be able to understand what an iPhone is. Netflix, did they ever survey Blockbuster customers and ask if they wanted streaming? What the hell is streaming? And I guarantee Peloton, they never asked the world should we put a screen on a stationary bike that delivers live coaching or class? No, they didn't ask. Innovation will reveal desires. Surveys rarely do. And yet these surveys are being used by industry leaders to make decisions about innovation. If you must use a survey, I beg you, and you're in charge of making strategic moves to set your brand up for success, please use better questions. Ask emotional questions. What frustrates you most? Where do you feel unsupported? What makes you stop coming? What would make you feel part of something? What makes fitness meaningful to you? Ask deeper questions, not operational ones. And here's the punchline. Fitness industry surveys don't reveal what members want. They reveal what members can articulate through their lens of their own perception, inside the constraints of the questions you're forcing them to answer. If you want truth, look at behavior. If you want innovation, look way beyond the survey. If you want to build the future, stop asking people what they want and start understanding who they are. You cannot put leaders in positions of responsibility inside these companies to make decisions about the future of your brand who have never worked inside the clubs on the front lines. That's my opinion. I just don't see how you can connect the dots with having a complete just understanding of the challenges on the front lines, of what the members truly want. If you've never worked a day behind the front desk, if you've never worked with a member struggling with their weight loss or obtaining their goals, if you've never, I would even go this far, if you've never been handed a bunch of brochures and said, go walk the parking lot and start handing things out. There is something to be said about people in this industry who have bled on the front lines and experienced members face to face. So this has been Non-Filtered. No PR polish, no corporate spin, just reality, whether it's comfortable or not. And if you want more episodes like this, subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever else you're listening. I'm Adam Howland. Again, this was Non-Filtered. I'll see you on the next one.